Hello folks, welcome back to the Edupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. So in the company's law we are continuing with the winding up, and I need to remind you that we are covering the Companies Act 1956 for this specific chapter, right? We don't have the new Companies Act 2013 applicable for this chapter for your examination as of now, right? So in the previous lecture we have already discussed about section 433, right? So what did section 433 tell us? Section 433 was basically the grounds for compulsory winding up, right? So over there we have seen 6 different grounds and gone into the detail of understanding what are the reasons, what are the causes, and how will the compulsory winding up be awarded, right? And all the other examples and the case studies and everything. So we have already covered the topic in detail. So today what we will see is that after these people who have approached the court for compulsory winding up, after they have filed their petition, what does the court do? Right? So basically we will see the winding up by the court today. But before that, let us just revise as to what were the 6 grounds for compulsory winding up that we had. So among those 6, the first was the special resolution passed by the company. And we have seen that instead of the special resolution, the company would always prefer, instead of the compulsory winding up, the company would always prefer to go for a voluntary winding up by special resolution, right? We have discussed in detail why so. The second ground for the grounds for compulsory winding up was the default in filing the statutory report and holding the statutory meeting. So basically we saw that this ground was applicable on the public company having share capital, right? They have some statutory liabilities to hold certain statutory meetings and deposit or file certain statutory reports, right? So if they default in that, then that would be a valid ground for their compulsory winding up, right? Next you have the non-commencement of business or suspension of business. So if you have got your business registered, you have got your business incorporated, but still you do not commence with your business for a period of 1 year, which is actually not a reasonable period, right? You will have to specifically justify as to why didn't you start your business in 1 year, and you actually have the prospect of starting it in the coming year. If you can prove it, it's well and good. Otherwise the company would be wound up. And similar is the case with suspension, because it is an abnormal situation. You generally do not suspend your business for an entire year, right? And if you're doing it, if there is some special situation, some special circumstance, then you will have to convince the court. You will have to convince that situation that this is a special situation, this is a special circumstance, our substratum is still valid, and we will be continuing with the operations, right? The fourth ground for compulsory winding up was the reduction of the number of members below minimum. When we talk about below statutory minimum, we would definitely consider the public company and the private company separately. So do you know what is the statutory minimum number for the members? In the public company it is 7, and in the case of private company it is just 2 members, right? And we also have the concept of 1-person company with 1 member. We don't apply it over here because if that goes away, there is no company at all, right? Then you have the company if the company is unable to pay its debt. And the definition of debt or the bandwidth of debt is beyond rupees 500 only, right? But we have certain procedures that the creditors have to fulfill about the notice at the registered office, right? Then the 3 weeks time lapse and all such things. We have already discussed it in detail. We will not go into the details of it, but all you need to remember is that if the company is unable to pay off its debt, then it can be a ground of compulsory winding up. When I say it can, that means not necessarily it is a ground of compulsory winding up. Like the provision would be relaxed in case of bona fide dispute and stuff, right? You have already seen that. Then the 6th ground that you have, the last ground, is just and equitable to wind up the company. Now what do you mean by just and equitable, right? So over here they are actually trying to incorporate the other reasons, right? And so on, or etc. and others. So it is just and equitable. And we have seen the examples of just and equitable, that is the loss of substratum, deadlock in the management, fraudulent or illegal business, company is a bubble, or recommendation by the BIFR, the Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction. So that is the portion that we have already covered, right? And we have also had the discussion on the questions pertaining to the same, right, that have been asked in your previous examination and that has been referred to in your practice manual. Now today we are going ahead with the next topic, which is winding up by the court. So when we talk about winding up by the court, which is the court we are referring to? Right. So this is a discussion that we'll be taking up actually a little later, but generally it is the High Court where you have the registered office of that city, and otherwise it can also be the district court. There are situations, like we'll discuss that topic in detail later, but basically what you need to consider over here is when will the company wind up? When will the court order for that compulsory winding up? Right? When these 6 grounds for compulsory winding up are fulfilled, is it for sure that the company will order winding up? Is it justifiable? Is it logical? Is it reasonable? No. Like, say for example, if there is a company who is not being able to pay his creditors for any situation, right? Any situation. Maybe they lack fund, they seriously lack fund over here, but they are doing very well in their operations. The manufacturing is going very well. They are paying off their staff very well. Everything is going fine. The taxes, everything is on time. It is just that, yeah, there is a little amount for the creditor, or there's an amount of loan that needs to be repaid and they're not able to repay. And then the bank goes to the court, please, I need this company to be wound up. They're not paying my loan. What will happen with that? Are you sure you will get your loan back? Are you sure that if you sell the assets of the company and then we pay off all the recipients of that money, where are you standing in the priority? Are you sure you'll get all your money back? That is the first question. Second, what are the other impacts the court will judge? Is it reasonable to wind it up, or we have other ways out? Anyways, winding up is going to take some time. So why not give some time to the company to repay the debt? Right? Try and understand. The judge who is sitting in the court he has to take some rational decisions, right? He has to listen to the petitions, he has to calculate, he has to understand, and then he has to take a rational decision as to what would be the best alternative. Winding up is the last resort, it is not the first resort. Right? So we need to understand the situation. That is why this case is referred to the court. Otherwise, when we're talking about the grounds of compulsory winding up, you should not have been to the court. Okay, these grounds exist, wind up. Why is there a need for the court? The basic purpose behind that is that the power is discretionary. The court may and may not award that winding up or order for that winding up. Right? I would not call it award, it's actually an order for winding up. Right with that? So basically we need to understand that the remedies that are given under section 433, the 6 grounds for compulsory winding up, is not a matter of right. It's not their right to get the company wound up. No. But yeah, it is a matter of right to some extent that yes, based on this you can file a petition at least. But that is not the matter of right for winding up. Right? Understand the difference. It's on your end, you can file the petition, but it's up to the court whether or not they will award winding up. They would order winding up. And that power is discretionary. So first I'll share some bullet points that I will be involving into my discussion on this topic now, so that you get an idea of the same. Right? So basically, one thing we know for sure, that this is the discretionary power for the court. Second, the remedy under section 433 is not a matter of right. Then you also need to consider whether the inability of the company to pay off its debt, is it a deliberate action, is it a planned action, or is it helplessness? Are they bound to do so? Right? Because the financial position is not correct, because the economy is not supporting them. We need to consider that. Next is, consider the financial status of the substratum or the substratum. Both of it you have to consider. Consider the larger interest of the society. Consider the larger interest of justice and law of prudence. So basically these are the terminologies that you need to include in your answer also if you are asked a question on this in your examination. If you ask me whether or not you have been asked a question on the same in the past, I would say not very often. But yes, you had a question in your year 2002, specifically CA final November 2002, right? We will discuss that question also. But this presence of this question in your previous examination is a proof that a question can be asked from this section. And it's a very simple thing. It's just a little concept, a little logical thinking that you need to undergo, right? There's nothing to mug up over here, and that will help you out to frame the answer. So these are the basic keywords that you will be using in the answer, right? And now listen very carefully when I am explaining, right, the entire procedure. I'm explaining the concerns for the court. And if you also want to refer to a case study, then Tata Iron and Steel Company versus Microforge India Limited 2000 is the case that you would refer to. Right? Remember the name? Tata Iron and Steel versus Microforge India Limited 2000. Right? So listen to the entire discussion very carefully. You will automatically be able to rationalize the entire concept. So when we say that the remedy under section 433 is not a matter of right, that means, for example, the example we took for inability to pay the loan, inability to pay the debt, right, and or any other consideration, any of the 6 grounds like non-commencement of business or suspension of business. Individually, any of this point is not so significant that the court would order winding up on the go, right? Because all of these are a matter of discussion. They can be benefits out of it, they can be negatives out of it. So even if the debt is proved, right, or the non-payment of the dues, the non-payment of the loan, the non-payment to the creditors is proved, okay, we agree the company is defaulter, right? Then we will actually need to consider whether that default by the company was a deliberate action of the company. Was it a planned set of action? Or is the company actually forced by the situations, by the circumstances, by the conditions to do that? Right? So is it deliberate or is it a temporary stroke? So how do you analyze that? You will have to basically consider the financial status of the company first. Right? Like the example we had taken for the loan. There can be a situation that the company says, I have money to pay off the loan, very well. But if I pay off the loan today itself, then I will not be able to sustain my business because I need funds for my business right now. My business is operating, my employees are working, they are being paid their salaries on time, the governments are getting their taxes on time, the manufacturing unit is running on its usual set of time, right? If we have 2 rotations, if we have 2 shifts of job, it is working that well. We have demands, we have our creditors working for us, we have the supply in the market, everything is working perfectly fine. But the only issue that we have is the financial crisis, and that is temporary, right? Our projections show we'll come out of it very soon. So all we want is some more time to pay off the debt to the bank. So if you are a judge in that situation, what would you do? You would definitely award some time, right? Because if you order winding up to the company, it is not going to help anybody, right? There are certain drawbacks for that. We'll discuss about the drawbacks at the end, but first we need to consider, is this a valid point for winding up? No, it's not. They're having high sales, high turnover, right? It is just the temporary cash demand that they have to input into their business, and henceforth they're not able to pay their debts. So on the larger extent, you will have to see the interest of justice. If you order winding up to the company, is that justice? Is that justice with the company? Is that justice with their employees? Is that justice with their creditors? It's justice with nobody. Is that justice with the bank? No. If the company survives, if the company goes on, company is paying more interest to them, even they are earning, right? So the court basically takes over the position to help or support the economy rather than just ordering winding up and just finishing off the things. No, everything has a reason, everything has a logic behind, right? So if you think this word winding up is actually a very strong word. When you wind up a company, you are putting an end to that business, you are putting an end to that startup if it's a startup, right? You are putting an end to that generation by generation following up business, a traditional business if it is, whatever it is, you are putting an end to it. It is there is a lot of effort that has gone in to incorporate the company, to bring the company into the running position, right? To cross the break even position, to start gaining the profit. It's a lot of effort and time that has gone in. There are a lot of people who have been employed by the company. They will lose their employment, they will lose their livelihood, their families will be suffering because of that. And when if it is a manufacturing company, then there is a product that has been introduced in the market, and if they're selling it, that means it is in demand, people need that. And if you shut down that company, if you wind up that company, the product automatically goes out of the market. So it is basically helping nobody, from the manufacturer to the consumer to the distributor to the employees of all these three divisions. Nobody, right? If you want to sustain your economy, you will have to have more entrepreneurs, but by doing this, you are actually putting a brake on the entrepreneurship, right? So by this, I always mean to say that yes, the court has to consider the larger interest of the society. What will be the impact of that company moving out from the market? What will be the impact on the society for that, on the whole? Also the creditors are very happy with that. Okay, we are getting the payment a little delayed, but still we are making business out of it. They will stop making business. So the larger interest of the society is very important to be seen, right? And we also know that it is not a compulsory, it is not a matter of right, it is a discretionary power of the court, right? The court will apply the law of prudence. What step is to be taken, what step is necessary, what step would conclude it to a better future, right? So the element of public policy has to be taken into account before any court orders the winding up. So if we critically analyze it, then the winding up would ensure the following. What? Closing down of the company that is into some production or service provision. So if you're closing down that company, the production activity stops. If they're into service provision, you will not get any more service in the society, because the service providing company is moving out, it is being wound up, right? It would throw the employees out of employment. All the employees, the workers in the factory, the guards, everybody is losing employment. The people who are bringing those employees to the company, right? The people who are running that public support system, the public transport, they are losing employment. The people who are outside with their canteen, they are losing employment. They are losing their source of income. It's everybody around, right? If it's a big company, it's everybody around who is losing their source of income, who are losing a livelihood, whose families will be suffering after this. It would result in loss of revenue to the state, because the company is not performing, they're not paying taxes, no excise duty, no sales tax, no service tax. So even in the interest of the of the government, it is not beneficial, right? It would result in scarcity of the product and diminishing employment opportunity. Yes, if you're not producing it, the product is moving out of the market, there's scarcity created. And that if the company would be growing, it would actually come up with more employment opportunity, and we are losing it. So we need to consider that as well. What would be the impact on the creditors in general, or the creditor in particular? Although they are not getting the money on time, maybe there's a delay, no problem with that. They're at least making business, they're running it, and they know that yeah, someday we'll come on the break even and then we'll start earning. But before that, if this company comes to an end, even they lose their business, right? So these are the factors that you need to consider before the court awards the winding up, right? Next, we will also cover the questions. The specific question that has been asked in your CA final November 2002 examination. But we'll take it up in the next lecture. So until then, this is Abhinay Gupta signing off. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you.